As we go through life, it's almost inevitable at some point that we will run into people who are difficult. They may be family members, friends, acquaintances, co-workers, a boss, or people that you just meet casually or randomly. But if we live long enough, and sometimes it doesn't take very long at all, we're going to run into people who are difficult. So how can we love people who are difficult? Let's explore some ways to love difficult people that might make it easier to love them and accept them into our lives. First, if you can, spend as little time as possible with them. If you can avoid difficult people, frequently you can avoid confrontation, you can avoid fights, you can avoid arguments, and you can avoid the energy that difficult people project into the world. So whenever it's possible, whether it's a coworker, a friend, a family member, or someone you care about, or even an acquaintance, and they're a difficult person, spend as little time with them as possible. This will reduce the amount of conflict and negative energy between the two of you and make it easier for you to love them. Now I know sometimes it's not possible to avoid difficult people. Here's a case that happened in my life. I had a very good friend who owned and operated a small landscaping business. And for a couple of years, I worked with him on that business. It was good, honest work, and it was outdoors, and I love being outdoors. He had contracted to do a trimming of a large tree in an upscale neighborhood with million-dollar homes in California. And I was on the job with him. So we were just trimming the dead branches off the tree, and there were a lot of them. The tree was right close to the street, so as the limbs were dropping down, they were landing in the street and making a mess on the sidewalk too. It's just part of the job. So we're working away, having a fine day. It was a beautiful day, when all of a sudden, the next door neighbor, who looked like to be a man in his 40s, somewhere in there, had that executive feel to him, came running out of his house and screaming and yelling at my friend and asking him, point blank, what are you doing here? What's the matter with you? Why are you making this big mess? On and on, right in his face, screaming and yelling at him. And the guy went on and on as my friend's trying to calm him down, saying, hey, look, I know it's messy, but we'll clean the mess up before we leave. That's what we always do. Never mind. The man kept screaming and yelling at him and being just really sort of an SOB. And my friend calmly, once in a while, would just reassure him, we're going to clean everything up before we leave today. Finally, the man settled down enough to be sort of disgruntled and say, well, make damn sure you do it. And then he walked away. I went over to my friend and said, that was amazing. How did you do that? That guy was so angry. He was just screaming and yelling in your face, and you maintained your calm and finally settled him down. I said, how did you do that? My friend looked at me and he said, Becken, part of life is dealing with difficult people. I never forgot that. He was right. Part of life is dealing with difficult people, and part of life is still dealing with difficult people. I've dealt with them in my life, and I'm thinking you probably have in yours too. Here's something that may be helpful when it comes to loving difficult people. Make a distinction between loving someone and liking them. You can make a distinction between loving someone and liking what they do or who they are. For instance, almost everyone who is a parent and has raised children knows that there are days when children do things that you don't like. There may be days, entire days, when you don't like the child at all because they're in a mood or they're being just nasty or selfish. But a good parent will continue loving the child, even though they don't like the child at that moment or they don't like what the child is doing. You can do the same with difficult people. You can love them, but you don't have to like what they do or who they are all the time. So make that distinction. There was a time in my life when I was married, and my ex-wife grew up in a family that was combative. They argued a lot. So when she moved in with me, she brought that same energy into our relationship, and she wanted to argue with me and fight with me. The first couple of times she did that, I didn't respond. I just let her vent. The third time she did it, she finally threw her hands up in the air and said, "You are so frustrating." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Because you won't fight back." And I looked at her and said, "That is precisely the point." From that time on, for the years that we were together, she never started another argument with me. Whenever we had a problem, we just worked it out calmly, talked it out, and moved forward. And it made the relationship a lot more pleasant, and it made it a lot easier to love her. One of the points I'm making here is when you run across difficult people who want to be contrary, who want to be argumentative or start a fight, don't feed the fight. Stay calm and let them vent. And eventually, most of the time, they'll calm down. Now, why do people do that? Sometimes people are programmed at an early age to be combative, to be argumentative, to yell and scream, to want to fight with other people. It's ingrained in their family. And so they learn at a young age, that's the way you get attention. And they can feed off of the attention that other people give them when they fight back. But that's negative energy. To stay in a relationship with that person and to keep loving them, it's much easier if you don't feed that fire. Don't feed the arguments. Don't feed the fight. Just remain calm, let them vent, and eventually, usually, they'll settle down. So keep it in your mind when you're dealing with a difficult person. That person may well have learned to be contrary, difficult, argumentative from an early age, and it may have been programmed in them from early childhood as a way to get attention or to maintain control in a situation. Here's something else you can do when it comes to dealing with difficult people and loving them. If you have a friend, family member, neighbor, lover, acquaintance, anyone, a boss at work or a coworker who is difficult to relate to, before you engage with that person, shower the situation and the person with love ahead of time. Then, when you meet the person, keep showering them with love. It may or may not change the person that you're relating to, but it could very well change your ability to react to them. Now, as you're relating to them, keep showering them with love and keep showering them with love. You may be surprised at the difference it can make. A big part of the reason that people are difficult to deal with and are not kind, loving, or compassionate is that no one has ever taught them how to be loving, to be kind, to be compassionate. Unfortunately, this is true for the vast majority of humanity. No one ever teaches people how to be loving, to be kind and compassionate. Oh yes, we're told to be loving. We're told to be kind. We're told to be compassionate. But never given the instructions on how to do it. If you want some powerful instructions on how to be more loving, kind, and compassionate, those instructions are available in the book Magnify Your Love, which is available for free on the website magnifyyourlove.com. So remember, people have not been told, they have not been taught how to be loving, kind, and compassionate. This may be true for yourself as well. Remember your own history. There may have been a time in your life when you weren't as loving and kind and compassionate as you are now. That's true for me. When I was in my teens and early 20s, I was not nearly as loving and compassionate as I am now. But I studied love and learned how to be more kind and compassionate and loving, and learned a lot of tools along the way. I changed, and other people are capable of change too, just as you are. It's good to know that different people have different brain chemistry when it comes to their ability to be loving or to be difficult. Some people are blessed with more oxytocin and serotonin, the hormones that make it easier to be loving, compassionate, and kind. Other people are not blessed with an abundance of those hormones, and it's more difficult for them to be loving, compassionate, and empathetic. That doesn't mean that they're stuck there and they can't change. One way to help that situation is to visualize them and feel them when you're not around them, becoming more compassionate, more loving, more empathetic, and less difficult. That allows for growth in the person. If we continually hold people where they are in our minds and say, oh, that person, oh, they're just so difficult, or, all the negative connotations or names that come with it, if we hold them in that space, we tend to imprison them there. But if we see them in a bigger light, with the ability to change and grow, we allow for that possibility to happen. So see and feel the difficult people that you have in your life growing, expanding, and changing. There's no guarantee that it will happen, but if everyone holds them in a negative light, the chance that they can grow, expand, and change is much more difficult and much more unlikely. Now, for some men, and even in some cultures, love can be seen as a weakness. That's unfortunate for them, because they are missing out on one of the most amazing, incredible, and powerful energies in the universe. Love can actually work miracles. And to take that off your repertoire of things you have access to in life is to operate at a severe disadvantage. When it comes to loving people like that, the best thing you can do, just let them go. Let them be who they are. Let them have their limited belief systems about love. Don't try to change them, because they're not open to change. Work with the people who are open to change. So there you have it. Some ways that you can love difficult people. I hope this has been helpful for you. If it has, express your appreciation. Drop a comment below.